Hello and welcome to our webinar, DK Summer 2024 School and Library Preview. I'm Annie Bostrom, Senior Editor for Adult Books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. We have a wonderful program for you today, and I will start by handing it over to Rebecca Sang, Marketing Coordinator at DK. Take it away, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you, Annie. And hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Rebecca, the Marketing Coordinator for School and Library at DK. And like you, I am super hyped to hear the special Q&A with author Kacie Rose of You Deserve Good Gelato. But before that, I'm excited for the opportunity to first share with you some of DK's available and forthcoming titles for both children's and adult. Now, before I dive in, I want to mention that if a book or series is available in ebook or as a Spanish language edition, this will be mentioned on the slide. Now, let's begin with our children's titles. First up is Phonic Books. Phonic Books offers an exciting range of decodable books for beginner readers and older readers. With multiple series that build on learned letter sound knowledge, they pave a structured scaffold that can be effectively integrated into any phonics instruction program. This August, we'll be publishing a new book set for older readers, Pet Sitters, which includes 12 books starting at the CVC level and progressing through adjacent consonants, consonant digraphs, and alternative vowel spellings. Pet Sitters is a set of independent stories that share the same phonic progression as the Phonic Books Alba series and Totem series and can be used independently or in parallel with these two series. We're also publishing a photocopyable activity book that will accompany the Pet Sitter series. Next in the phonics realm is our new series, DK Super Phonics. This summer, we'll be publishing Pet Shop Panda and Haircut Pippos. Both of these box sets for beginner readers will include 8 books with fun stories that focus on essential first sounds. Each of the individual books also contains a word list for blending practice, discussion questions, and a game to enjoy together. Plus, don't miss out on the DK Super Phonics card game, a beautifully designed game featuring 44 letter sound cards that offer fun practice and consolidation of phonics skills for beginner readers. Our beloved DK Super Reader series is back for 2024, and our new and improved nonfiction leveled reader series is designed for kids ages 3 to 11 and is divided into 5 levels from pre-level to level 4, all aligned to Lexile measures. In 2023, we published 125 titles covering science-based topics, from dinosaurs to wild animals to inventions in AI and more. This year, DK Super Readers will focus on social studies topics, and in the summer, we're publishing readers across all 5 levels that cover different topics across North American history and culture, as well as a special licensed reader from Avatar. For more information, visit the Super Readers website, available on this slide and also on the back of every DK Super Reader via a QR code. The site holds a ton of information and free downloadable resources for parents, educators, and librarians. From reading guides to achievement certificates and mask cutout crafts, these resources will help kids become the reading heroes they are. Next up are new books from Rebel Girls. In Rebel Girls, Dads and Daughters, young readers will meet 25 amazing father-daughter pairs. Dive into their worlds and learn about how they built businesses, trained horses, made music, advocated for others, and dreamed big dreams together. Rebel Girls Social Situation Survival Guide is a guidebook for readers ages 8 to 12, filled with tried and true advice on growing up and making friends. While certain social situations can feel like navigating a maze, the quizzes, expert advice, and stories from real girls in this book will empower girls to feel ready to handle whatever comes their way. And a new chapter book series, The Secret Society of Rebel Girls, will also be launching this summer. The first book in this magical series is Nina and the Mysterious Mailbox. In her first few weeks at Ada Lovelace Middle School, one thought keeps running through Nina's head. Middle school is so weird. Little does she know it's about to get even weirder. After an assignment to write a letter to a woman from history, Nina receives a letter back from Cleopatra herself. Did this letter really come from Cleopatra? And if so, how? And who should she write to next? This middle grade series is fun, mysterious, magical, and an adventure through history. Next, we have a new addition to the Dinosaur Club chapter book series, March of the Ankylosaurus. When Jamie and Tess, members of the Dinosaur Club, explore a secret cave with fossils all over the walls, the two accidentally find themselves back in the time of dinosaurs and must go face to face with the Ankylosaurus, an herbivore that was built like a tank and could fight like one too. Now, this book is the latest addition to this exciting time-traveling dino series, packed with knowledge, up-to-date discoveries, glossaries, and a thrilling storyline. Dinosaur Club is the ultimate Jurassic adventure. You can see the full series offerings on this slide. Next up, we have another chapter book, The Timekeepers, DK's chapter book series for kids ages 7 to 9. The Timekeepers are a secret organization of kids who keep the course of history on track, all while a villain named Delay is set on causing chaos. When the hands on their special watches start to spin backwards, the Timekeepers know that the villain Delay is up to no good, and it's up to them to make things right. With a range of exciting adventures that span all of history, the Timekeeper series is the perfect mix of fictional story with historical fact. The books even include a reference section with more information on the historical topic to extend readers' interest. The fourth book of the series, The Tesla Trap, will be available in July. Next, I like to highlight several new titles coming to the A Kid's Book About series, which explores conversations on the important yet often more difficult parts of life. Topics in the series are handled mindfully, and the books are meant for children as young as 5. Some of these are existing titles that are already out in the world, but by being under the DK umbrella, they will now be easier for you to obtain through your preferred wholesaler. This summer, the books coming out will be A Kid's Book About Juneteenth, Public Speaking, Bullying, Mindfulness, and Change. Plus, while I can't say too much for now, we will also be publishing a few new books from this series written by some names that I am betting you will recognize. This is just a little teaser for you, so be on the lookout for more to come very soon. Next, for the kids who want to dip into browsable reference, look no further than DK EYEWITNESS. As you may know, a few summers ago, the look and feel of the Eyewitness series was updated with a new look, more facts, and more fun for today's generation of kids ages 9 to 12. However, this series still maintains the same well-loved approach of visually stunning, immersive knowledge built around a singular topic. This summer, we're adding 2 new books to this popular and beloved series, Eyewitness Arctic and Antarctic, and Eyewitness Horse, which I'm personally very excited about. And next up, we have How Technology Works, an inspiring and accessible guide to everything that makes technology fun and fascinating for curious young minds. Perfect for kids ages 9 to 12, this book will take readers to far-off places, such as the inside of a nuclear storage facility or the crew capsule on top of a moon rocket. With this book, kids will explore the world's coolest inventions and discover how science makes it all work. Now let's dive into some summer activities and fun. Millions of viewers have joined Dad Rob and his family on YouTube to learn how to draw. With this fun new book series, kids can now take their art with them wherever they go. Featuring delightfully accessible lessons, Draw with Art for Kids Hub's unique, easy-to-follow approach puts fun first, encouraging kids to draw in their own way and to be proud of the results. The first 2 books in this series include Animals and Cute and Funny Foods, each featuring 30 step-by-step drawing guidelines. Now here's just an exclusive sneak peek at some of the pages in this series. With Draw with Art for Kids Hub, kids will discover the joy of simply drawing and avoid getting frustrated trying to recreate the perfect image. This summer, we'll also be publishing fun new books with LEGO. LEGO Amazing Space takes inquisitive readers on a journey to outer space. Why do stars twinkle? Could we one day ride an elevator to space? Could there be a multiverse? This book answers all of these questions, to which I also need to know the answer to, and much more. Illustrated with more than 150 LEGO models, readers will also be inspired to create their own space creations. LEGO Minecraft Ideas combines the best of Minecraft with the fun of LEGO. Budding builders will be inspired to bring Minecraft to life by learning how to design a diamond sword, create a creeper house, build a busy biome, and much more. This book comes with a LEGO figurine, but we also have a special library edition available. How to Build LEGO Robots brings LEGOs to life with more than 40 LEGO robot ideas, from a hip-hop bot to an underwater explorer. In this fun guide, kids will learn essential techniques to building their own wonderful creations, including how to create articulated arms, grabbers, power displays, and much more. Next up, we have a cookbook. A fun feast for 7 to 9-year-olds, From Plant to Plate, is the perfect book to inspire kids to get growing, get cooking, and get plant-powered eating. Discover 15 incredible plants and how to transform their seeds into the mighty fruits, vegetables, and herbs our bodies need. But the fun doesn't end here. With more than 25 tasty recipes, from basil pesto pasta to butternut squash muffins, young chefs will master a variety of unique plant-powered food that they'll love to grow, to eat, and to read about. Now, jumping into some board books, we have an exciting new addition to DK's popular Baby's First series, which delves into festivals, celebrations, and holidays around the world. This July, we'll be publishing Baby's First Day of the Dead. Specially made for little hands, this hard-wearing board book has a soft, padded cover and safe, rounded corners. Babies and toddlers will soon be turning the pages themselves, naming objects and learning all about this joyous festival. This book is also available as a Spanish and English bilingual edition. Last but not least for our children's titles, we're excited for Words of Love, the first in a series of 4 picture books by author-illustrator Jake Biggin. Jake created this series to help his own children navigate this strange post-pandemic world with the understanding that even little readers have their own questions and anxieties. Words of Love empathetically captures the challenges of life while also offering deep comfort and hope. Plus, DK's Spanish language publishing list continues to grow, both on the children's and adult sides. Highlighted here are just a few of this year's forthcoming and newest editions of our DK books in Spanish. Now, let's dive into our adult highlights. So first, I'd love to start with a little special shout out to DK's New York Times best-selling books of last year. Joshua Wiseman's Texture Over Taste, Baking Yesteryear by B. Dylan Hollis, Safe and Sound by Mercury Stardust, Knife Drop by Nick DiGiovanni, Healthy Girl Kitchen by Danielle Brown, and Meal She Eats by Rachel and Tom Sullivan. These books are all available now. So in just a few minutes, you'll be hearing more from author and social media travel star Kacie Rose herself. But let me be the first to sing the praises of her book. In You Deserve Good Gelato, Kacie shares personal stories from her move from New York City to Italy in 2021. She reflects on the trials of speaking a new language, the privileges of travel, the beauty of a slower-paced life, and so much more, all with humor and incredible heart. So stay tuned for Kacie's Q&A coming up very soon to hear more from the author herself. Garden Grown helps you make the most of your garden's bounty with 100 colorful, easy-to-make, vegetable-forward recipes. From gardening tips to family-friendly recipes, this cookbook from the blogger behind the viral lifestyle and cooking blog Lemon Stripes is the ultimate guide to eating and living well. Step into old-time HAWKEY'S magical world with 100 comforting recipes and stories inspired by the beauty of northern Michigan. In videos that have captured the hearts of millions online, Old Time HAWKEY, aka Fritz, is always there to offer an ice cream sundae on a tough day or to help you drift off to sleep with a story or a retro video game. This cozy cookbook brings you on an adventure through Fritz's world, with recipes inspired by 3 generations of campfires, deer camps, and family gatherings. So bring your blanket and gather around the fire and let's explore Cedar Swamp. Cooking begins with the senses, and nobody knows this better than Bilal Bhatti. Before he became a social media cooking sensation, he grew up learning how to cook from his mother. Rather than using tablespoons or teaspoons, she'd call for a saucer of flour or a mug of rice, using typical household items as a standard for measurement. Beyond Measure is a one-of-a-kind cookbook, one that both dives into the delicious intricacy of Pakistani cuisine and one that encourages you to put aside those measuring tools and let your senses and taste buds guide the way. Next, we have 2 new history titles. In Timelines of World War II, discover the stories, key events, and turning points from the Second World War. Stunning and detailed spreads showcase artworks, photography, and other artifacts, while special profiles highlight the people, technology, and events that altered the course of history. History of North America, Map by Map, takes readers on a visual journey through the history of North America, from the civilizations that arose in Mexico to the Vikings to the industrial era. Whether for casual browsing or a deep dive into the past, this book will captivate readers in a historical journey through this land. Last but not least, let's talk travel. DK has exciting new additions to the DK Eyewitness travel guides covering Alaska, Budapest, Egypt, Iceland, and many more places. Filled with color-coded chapters, practical tips, detailed maps, and more, this series will ensure you don't miss a thing on your adventure around the world. Plus, check out the latest additions to our popular DK Eyewitness Top 10 series, including Athens, San Diego, Las Vegas, and much more. With simple, up-to-date themed lists of 10 that cover the best of each city, these pocket-friendly guides will help you make the most of your time and travels. Lastly, we have new additions to our Like a Local series, including Berlin, Copenhagen, and Austin. These beautiful travel guides are packed with each city's local businesses, community strongholds, and secret spots, all recommended and gathered by true locals, offering travel experiences to suit every mood or need. Now, before I pass this along, here's just a quick reminder to follow DK on social media to receive the latest news and offerings. Whether you're interested in our children's or adult books, we're here to keep you updated on all our latest. And for any school librarians, be sure to check out our education-focused site, DK Learning, which is packed with free downloadables and lesson plans for educators. And be sure to follow us on our education-focused social channels as well. Thank you so much for joining this event and for all that you do for your communities. DK truly appreciates you. And now I'm so excited to pass this back to Annie for the Q&A portion of this event with author Kacie Rose. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I am so pleased today to be joined by Kacie Rose. Kacie is a travel content creator living in Florence, Italy. After a life-changing solo trip and her own little under the Tuscan sun moment, she made the official move to Italy in January of 2021. Through positivity, authenticity, and humor, she began sharing culture shocks, travel tips, and life abroad across her social media, where she quickly grew a following to a community of over 1 million people. From explaining why you won't find pepperoni pizza and lattes in Italy as you expect them, to sharing how to order coffee, figure out the train system, and find authentic gelato, Kacie's goal is to encourage and help her community travel abroad by showing them the beauty of culture differences, all the while reminding them that they are strong, deserving, and so much more capable than they think they are. Kacie has written some ebook travel guides on everything from what to pack for a trip abroad to everything students need to know before studying abroad in Italy. And her new book, which is what we are here to talk about today, is coming out from DK this May, and it's called You Deserve Good Gelato: Reasons to Travel the World, Embrace Failure, and Do the Stuff That Scares You. Kacie Rose grew up in Michigan before moving to New York, where she went to school and worked as a dancer and actor in musical theater for almost a decade. But today we're here to talk about her book and about what happened after Kacie decided to change things up. So You Deserve Good Gelato is part memoir, part travel book, and part self-empowerment guide to realizing all that you are capable of and deserve. In it, Kacie walks us through her decision to finally take the trip to Italy that she'd always dreamed of and to do it alone. A hop, skip, and a jump later, she found herself moving to Florence, where she's lived for the last 3 years and where she's joining us from today. Thank you so much for being here when it's like 8 p.m. your time, and I'm sorry for preventing you from wearing pajamas. Um,
You're so kind.
in the book, we learn about how moving to Italy for Kacie came with tons of excitement, as well as lots of unexpected hurdles like incomprehensible bureaucracy and homesickness, despite how happy she was to be there and her boyfriend's incredibly welcoming family. And Kacie takes us through all this, as well as through her rather accidental initiation as an online content creator. She now has 1.5 million followers across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and I bet we have a few of you here today. But if you haven't seen Kacie's videos, I encourage you to check out her very fun and relatable content about being an American abroad. So Kacie, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about your book.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So you were on a trip home to your mom's house in Michigan, staring at the ceiling that you've memorized, and you decide to do the scariest thing you'd ever done. What did you get out of bed and do?
Yeah, well, the following night, the first thing I did was I bought a bottle of wine, and then I cried, and I booked a flight to Italy for a solo trip, my first solo trip.
So that our audience can get a little feel for your book, I'm hoping that you could read the couple pages that begin on page 27 with turning the corner. And this
Sure.
is when you're on your that solo trip that you booked in the middle of the night.
Yes, let me bring it up. Turning the corner to enter, I'm sorry, let me start over. Turning the corner to exit the Venice train station, you're greeted by your first view of the Grand Canal. The view is almost comically welcoming, as if the city planners knew exactly what they were doing when they built the station. I'm sure they did, to be honest. At one point, when walking toward the exit in the station, the line between sea and land becomes blurred, and it seems as though the station merely melts seamlessly into water. It's enough to make any visitor, no matter how unimpressed they might try to seem with the whole thing, at least crack a smile. But that wasn't what got me. What did get me was climbing the first bridge that carries you over into the main part of the island. Climbing those steps and peering over at Venice for the first time took my breath away. The boats gliding sleepily along the calm water, transporting both people and goods alike to their destinations. The waves gently lapping up against the sidewalks, decorating the light gray pavement dark where the droplets landed. The gondola men to the left, donning their cheesy striped outfits, enjoying a coffee together and laughing before their day began. The early sun rising slowly over the canals, turning the soft pinks and blues of the morning brighter and brighter. It was one of the most beautiful things I had ever seen. And in that moment, I thought to myself, you can do this. And I did. That's not to say that there weren't hiccups along the way. Trust me, there were plenty, terrible gelato just being one of them. But I held on to that moment on the bridge above the canals of Venice, and from then on, I trusted that whatever unexpected hurdles were thrown my way, I was capable of handling them. Loneliness did hit every now and then, and there were times when I wished that I had someone to share my experiences with, had someone to go to dinner with and talk about the beautiful things I couldn't believe I was seeing with my own eyes. But at the same time, I loved the feeling of having no one to answer to but myself. For the first time in my life, I had complete control. I was addicted to the feeling of waking up and having the freedom to choose whatever it was I wanted to do and not have to apologize for it. If I wanted gelato at 10 a.m., I had gelato at 10 a.m. Pasta for lunch and dinner? Yes, please. I walked close to 30,000 steps every day, wandering down little alleyways and soaking up the vibrations of each city. I passed by tiny shops, early morning markets overflowing with fresh fruits and vegetables, elderly Italian men playing cards outside a cafe. My friends joked I was living my version of Eat, Pray, Love. They joked I was going to meet a boy and fall in love and that would be the last time they ever saw of me. I laughed them off. This trip was for me and me alone. After all, it was like a veil had been lifted before my eyes. I won't say that with each day, the problems that seemed so suffocating back home didn't cease to exist, but rather they became less and less significant as I began to truly understand that there was so much more the world had to offer than just the small bubble I was a part of and had grown accustomed to. It was teeming with different cultures, ideas, and ways of doing life that had never crossed my mind before, but I was eager to soak up. I was outside of my comfort zone, sitting comfortably in the uncomfortable. I began to remember that a version of me existed that had nothing to do with performing and wasn't just all about the hustle, one that enjoyed traveling, seeing new places, and meeting people from all over the world. And I liked her a lot. Not to sound all hippie guru, but with each cobblestone street, culture difference, and cone of creamy gelato, I healed a bit more.
Thank you so much for reading that. And I think for those of us who love listening to audiobooks, you read your audiobook of this book too, don't you?
I do. I was just in London. I'm reading the audiobook. Yeah.
So cool. So you mentioned your friends kind of joking about the Eat, Pray, Love moment, and spoiler, there is a little bit of truth to it. So, but you really want to emphasize that this is not one of those American woman goes abroad, meets a European guy, happily ever after the end. This isn't one of those stories, even though we love those. We love Julia Roberts. And your story does include a love story. So why was it important for you to differentiate your story from those familiar ones that we know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, spoiler alert. Yeah, it did happen. My friends were right. But I think, you know, just the stress of it. Like I stand firm in the belief that a romantic relationship is not at all necessary to have a fulfilling experience traveling or living abroad. It's just a beautiful bonus if it does happen, like it did in my case. But I think the thing that I wanted to differentiate and why it was so important to me was we all love those stories, right? We all love the fairy tale. We all love the idea of falling in love and moving abroad and having a whirlwind romance, and that's great. But I think I was more interested in what happened after, because it's not always a fairy tale, right? There is beautiful things about traveling and living abroad, but there's also really, really hard parts and there's really difficult moments. And I think it's really important that we talk about those and acknowledge those moments too, instead of just the beautiful moments, because there's both. They walk hand in hand together, you know?
Yeah, totally. Before you booked this trip, because it was so scary to do that, you said that traveling alone wasn't even on your bingo card of possibilities. And what
Yeah.
do you think kept it off of your bingo card, so to speak, and like how
Yeah.
did you get there?
I mean, fear, of course. I mean, think about it. Like I feel like so often we're taught that the world is like a big, bad, scary place, and that we're taught to fear it. And we're taught to think that what is unknown to us is bad or weird or dangerous. And that's just not the case, right? Because at the end of the day, learning about other people living on this planet and trying to, learn about their way of life is the best tool that we have in our toolbox to understand and respect other humans living on this planet. But fear was the thing that was holding me in place from realizing it. And honestly, I think the kind of like smack in the head moment for me, call it divine intervention, call it just my own consciousness entering the chat, but I was thinking about being on my deathbed and regretting not doing something just because I was too scared to do it. That to me is 10 times scarier than just doing the scary thing, right? That's not good enough for me. And it's not good enough for anybody.
Yeah, totally true. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. Um, this is a bit of a departure, but just because of our audience and who we all are, we're library workers and people who love books. So a travel read is a key book for any avid reader, as well as like summer reading season, which is almost here for us. So what do you like to read while traveling? What did you read while writing You Deserve Good Gelato? Give us a little snapshot of your bookshelf.
Oh, I love a good empowerment book. I love You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero is one of my favorites. And also I recently read How to Fail by Elizabeth Day, and I just loved it. I loved what she had to say.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's embracing failure is an important part of your book. It's in the
Yeah.
subtitle.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you learn to include even like the social side of failure in like part of your travels and trying to meet people. So that could look like, reaching out, first of all, is nerve-wracking, but you do it and maybe you get rejected or you just realize like, oh, I actually don't have anything in common with this person. Um, like, what does it look like to embrace that kind of failure in particular?
Yeah, well, I think it's another type of thing that we see failure as a bad thing, right? We so often perceive it as a bad thing, but in reality, like failing is exactly what allows us to persevere. Failure builds resistance, failure builds perseverance. And the only way to get out of your comfort zone is to fail and try again. And that's the only way that we're going to learn and we're going to grow is if we fail and we try again and we fail and we try again. That's the only way that we learn how to grow as humans.
So would you say like that, you have that passage where you're arriving at your first hostel in Venice and you're like, I want to be friends with these people. They seem cool, but I'm scared. Are you a lot tougher than that version of you? Would you say you're tougher?
Am I saying what? Sorry, say that
Would you
again.
say you've got a thicker skin? Are you tougher than you were back then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it goes right back to fear, right? Like failure and fear, they walk hand in hand. I was
Yeah.
so scared to talk to these people on my first night of my solo trip when that was exactly the type of thing that I was challenging myself to do. I was so scared to do it. And then eventually I just said, screw it. This is not what I envisioned. I'm going to just do it. And the first times I walked up to people and said, hi, I got so many rejections. So many people did not want to talk to me. And that's okay, because eventually I found the people that did, you know, and it's again, building up your armor and facing the things that scare you, failure being one of them.
The time that you moved to Italy, it was, kind of full pandemic. It wasn't the beginning or the worst of it, but still it was, we didn't have vaccines yet, all this stuff. So much of the news from Italy for us in the US was very scary and, a lot of just kind of sad stories about how hard their population was hit and the older people living there. But we also saw those like people having dinner across balconies and things. So I just because it was so much in the news, but most of us didn't experience, I wonder if you could paint a picture for us of what it was like to be living in Italy at that time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, when you think about it, like community and family is at the forefront of like Italian culture. It's just high on a pedestal for them, which is why I think when we saw news coming out about Italy during the pandemic, why it seemed all the more grave, let's say, because it is just such a cornerstone, and that was really impacted obviously during COVID. But it was also, being here during COVID, it was strange because of that fact, because people are so like big family dinners, my gosh, like Italian family dinners, forget it. You're there for 8 hours a day and you're stuffing your face full of food. Like that's just what it is. But when that can't happen, it felt weird for a little bit, but at the same time, it was also quite beautiful because you could see ways in which Italians were still trying to embrace um, this key aspect of their culture, which was community and family. So whether it be like balcony dinners, like Dario at the balcony across from us, we like shared a spritz together one night, or like just people social distancing at a cafe, like having a coffee together, but apart, obviously, or going for even like a passeggiata, which is a type of walk, or the name for a walk in Italy, but again, socially distanced. You could see the ways that Italians were trying to maintain this super important part of their culture, which is really quite beautiful.
Oh, I get that. I'm half Italian, and the whole time the pandemic was going, I was thinking of my late grandmother and how she would not have, if she wasn't already gone, she wouldn't have survived the pandemic because the only thing for her was being together. And
Yeah.
you had to do a quarantine when you arrived too, right? You couldn't do
Ah,
anything for.
couldn't do anything. Yeah, it was 2-week mandatory quarantine. We were stuck inside. And it's funny because that's when I started creating content. So it was again another kind of like silver lining. At first, I was like 2 weeks, my God, and it was kind of like that. But that's also when I fell into content creation. So again, a silver lining.
Yeah. Um, you write a lot about having to battle the stereotypes that people have in mind about Americans when you when we're abroad. But that kind of ultimately leads into you understanding like you can't please everyone. There are like haters and bullies everywhere, times 10 on the internet. So I want to just hear more about how you came to terms with all of this because this is another thing that we don't have to be abroad. We don't have to be even making content to understand that the internet can be a scary place. And just how did you come to terms with all this? How did it change your outlook on traveling and living abroad?
Yeah, yeah. I think that old saying is really true, that hurt people hurt people. And when I realized that if somebody is going to take time out of their day to project negativity on somebody, whether that be somebody they know or somebody that they don't know, it is 1000%, 1000%, because there is something happening in their life that makes them feel the need to do that. And when you think about it like that, instead of feeling anger or hurt over it, which are obviously like natural emotions and you shouldn't feel bad for feeling those things, but when I frame it like that, and I think it's helpful for other people to frame it like that, you feel a lot of pity, honestly, because that must be such a dark place to be in, to be projecting negativity on somebody else. And again, it's because there's something happening in their life. So the best thing that we can do is wish them well, send them the love that they need, and go on our way. And I think coming to that realization helped me a lot get through some pretty tough moments. Because it's something that we can all relate to, right? Somebody, you know, sending us negativity or somebody being mean or rude, whether it be to our face or online. You don't need to be, you know, have a million followers or have, you know, large families or large amount of friends. It's something that we all experience. And the sooner we can reframe our minds to understand that it's not us, the better we can learn from it and walk away a little bit more, a little bit less unscathed, let's say.
Yes. And your content is overall, it's just so positive, which is such a nice thing. And I think clearly why so many people are drawn to what you do. And I think that you've identified what, you know, we have stereotypes, which are flattening and not to mention outright wrong and generally lazy. And I think the flip side of those are the cultural differences that you kind of call out in order to celebrate. And you know, we can't pretend they're not there. We're not all the same, you know, town to town, let alone country to country, whatever. So one of my favorites, one of my favorites from the book is how Americans can be identified because by when we're abroad walking and we're always drinking and eating while walking. And I totally love to do this, but the idea that you described how Italians like to go to a cafe in the morning, drink their espresso, chat, and then leave. And I was like, that would
Mhm.
be really different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, how did you make this realization that you wanted to kind of like, I mean, you must be an observant person who is noticing these things, but how did you decide like this is what I want to share with people? And also like what are some of your favorite sort of like, I don't know, fish out of water cultural realization moments?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think I wanted to share them because I think they're the things that I wish I had known or the things that I found interesting that I think other people would know. And I think it goes right back to what I was saying about, you know, sharing culture differences and sharing the ways that make us different as humans is actually one of the most unifying things that we can do. Because at the end of the day, like we all might live in separate parts of the world, but at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want like good food and, you know, laughter and love and to be happy. Like we all want the same things. We just might get there in different ways. And that's so beautiful. That's the most unifying thing I can think of, right? It only unifies us. Um, and to that aspect of little fish out of water moments, God, I have so many. We'd be here for hours, which I do detail in the book, so I guess that helps. But I think one of my favorite ones was actually, it was actually before I got to Italy. And it was one of the moments where it was one of the first moments where I realized how seriously Italians took their food. And I was on FaceTime with Dario, who is my boyfriend, who is Italian. We were still long distance. And we were on FaceTime together, and it was nighttime his time, but it was lunchtime my time. And I was talking and we were talking and I was making lunch and I was making pasta and I took the spaghetti, and as I'm talking, I snapped it. I snapped it in half to fit into the pot. And, and the only thing that I heard was the softest, faintest, and I was like, what? Well, I was like, what happened? I turned around and I just see him, he's white. He was like, why would you do that? I think like I should probably specify that it's kind of a thing in Italy that if you break spaghetti or break pasta in front of an Italian, it's kind of like breaking their arm. But Dario was also a chef, right? And so to add to that, it's not like I broke his arm. It's like I took the arm and ripped it off his body completely. He was horrified. And it was one of the first moments where I was like, oh, okay. You know, I was like, I just the pot. He's like, get a bigger pot. Like the hands came out. It was a whole thing.
We could probably go on just about the things that we do to pasta in America that would horrify Italians.
Yeah, we could
Um,
go on.
yeah, but um, yeah, the whole thing about embracing failure, and another part of your book subtitle is about doing the bleep that scares you. And but before doing that, you have to kind of acknowledge the fear in the room and that, and like, you know, invite it to the party, which is not always easy to do. So why do you think that that message kind of hits with your audience so well?
I mean, I think it goes back to, you know, kind of what I was saying before is that, you know, our time on the planet has an expiration date. And that's not to be morbid, but it is to stress the fact that at the end of your life, you don't get a do-over. There is no button that you get to press to go back to the moment that you wish you had said yes instead of no. And so we have to take advantage of the time that we have here. And one of those things is doing the things that scare us, that simultaneously thrill us, the things that we want to do, but that we're too scared to do. We have to do them. Otherwise, we're going to all be on our deathbed at the end of our life, regretting not doing the things that we wish we would have done. And that's,
Yeah.
again, that's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for you. It's not good enough for anybody, you know?
Yeah. Um, Kind of relating to this fear thing is one of my favorite lessons from your book is about trusting strangers and finding the helpers in a difficult yet concrete way, like when you needed to hire somebody to help you build a website because you were struggling to do it on your own. But in a more like vulnerable way, like when you got on the wrong train and found yourself in an unknown place with a dead phone. Um,
Yep.
it was nighttime.
Yeah.
So this is another lesson that you don't have to be traveling, you don't have to be from any country or any kind of thing to need this lesson sometime, that you like need the help of strangers. And you know, beyond the lesson of like being in a town you still don't know the name of, the where you got lost, how do you think traveling really brought home this lesson about trusting strangers and finding the helpers? How did it bring this lesson home for you?
I think it brought it home for me, just remembering the fact that there will always be somebody willing to help you if you need it. And whether that be traveling, whether that be at home, whether that be living abroad, whatever that might be, there will always be somebody willing to help you if you need it. And I think it goes back to the idea that we see the world as a big, bad, scary place and everything in it is scary and dangerous. And again, that's just not the case. Humans are so good, and you know, traveling is so good for you. And I think it's just taking that fear and remembering that you aren't alone really helps conquer that fear if you need it.
It's such an important, it's just, it can be as simple as a mindset shift and it just changes everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's why I love that lesson in your book.
That was a good one. That was a, yep.
Yeah. I know, I was like, what would I do? I don't know. I've never had a portable battery. You know, now I work from home, so I'm like never away from my phone.
Girl, lesson number one, carry a portable phone charger. I
Yes.
learned
Yes. I bet that's in your packing guide too.
in my packing guide.
Um, I liked how you talked about how traveling and living abroad helped you see the parts of your life that you were ready to let go of. Um, like the hustle culture of America in general, but also life in New York, um, valuing independence over everything, needing everything to be perfect. And just like tell us about that. How, like, do you think it was just that you traveled at exactly the right time in your life, or is it more specific to the actual act of traveling that you learn those things?
I'd like to say it was a little bit of both, but at the end of the day, I really think it was traveling that helped me understand that, right? And it's because of getting out of my own little bubble that I was in, of just kind of like you said, everything has to be perfect and I have to be independent and this is just me and this is my life and I'm hustling. When I was removed from that, I could see how other people were living their life and how I wanted my life to mirror that, or I wanted to take aspects of that culture and carry it home with me until eventually I made the move myself. But I think traveling does exactly that, right? Like when we get out of the bubble that we've been living in and the things that we know to be true, and we start experiencing other possibilities and other ways of just doing life, you can then take those little aspects that you know, find familiar and that you would vibe with, so to say, and you take them back with you and you start incorporating them into your own life. It's one of the best ways that you can, again, grow as a human, but also just improve your life rapidly, is getting out of your bubble and experiencing other people, you know?
Yeah, just it seemed like it really offered a lot of opportunities for self-examination and like in the chapter where you talked about what do they call the like noon to 3 break in the day?
Oh, la pausa.
La
Yeah, that
pausa.
was
And how you kind of have you can see both sides of it because you're like you can hear Americans or maybe the American in you being like so lazy and then you're like but they seem really happy and well rested and you know like valuing this life outside of work culture that
exactly.
you have
It's
to
that,
see both sides.
yeah, sorry for interrupting. No, it's that old saying of Americans live to work where Europeans work to live. Most Europeans work to live. And I found that to be so true. At first, you're so spot on. At first, I was like, I walked across the street to the pharmacy, it was closed from 12 to 3. And I was like, what? I don't understand. Um, but at the same time, like Italians have mastered the idea of la dolce vita, which is we know when it's time to work and we know when it's time to play, and we deserve to be able to play. And I thought that, you know, that's really cool.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, our time is close to being done, but there were a couple of things I wanted to talk about if I can remember them.
It's always like that, right?
Well, and yeah, it's like I lose, they come, they go. Um, but I mean, make sure we talk about this before we go. What is your greatest hope up for this book?
Ooh, good question. Um, I want people, at least one person, if one person walks away feeling empowered to face their empowered to face their fears, then I'll feel like my job is done. That's what I hope people walk away with. Yeah.
I love that, and I'm sure that they will.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about before we go. Is you have the great analogy of traveling being like you're 3 years old because you can't communicate your needs. And
Mhm.
I really related to that because I have a toddler at home. And but also because you know, I really value learning languages. I studied abroad and you talk about how you're like people just don't understand how funny I am and how smart I am in English. And I loved the analogy of it being like being a toddler because I think even though most of us can't remember being a toddler, we just understand it to be a very frustrating time. And would you say
Terrible.
that say it again? Sorry.
Party. It's like the terrible twos, you know?
Yeah.
It's like that.
It's like that. And so part of letting go of that feeling was the, you know, just like accepting help from Dario and others. That you said, like, you know, learning that you didn't have to be independent and do everything yourself. But what other advice do you have to people who maybe are on shorter trips and just like trying to get past those moments of like utter frustration with not being able to, you know, accomplish the thing you need?
Mhm. Say, take a deep breath. It's going to benefit you. It's not always easy, but it's 100% worth it.
And also there are helpers.
And also there are helpers. Somebody will always be willing to help you if you need it, always. But there's one thing I've learned to be true, always.
Well, I love that so much. And our time is up, but I'm just so happy that you could join us today. It's been so nice to talk to you. I really enjoyed reading your book, and I'm excited for other people to have it to consult, get a little boost from.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you to Kacie, and another thank you to Rebecca. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Staff training, in-services, local conference, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and Booklist Reader for upcoming staff training programs, so you can help the next generation of library workers become readers, advisory, and collection development superstars. Scan the QR code on the screen, visit our website, or email info@booklistonline.com for more details. Mastering the art of reader's advisory involves ongoing study both of major concepts that form the backbone of a good RA practice and of the skills that make your RA practice effective in the day-to-day. Join Booklist on Thursday, March 14th, that's 2 weeks from tomorrow, for a free extended workshop designed to keep you up to speed on both the ideas and practice that will enhance your RA game. Register now to learn from experts in the field about how genres relate to each other, how to talk to patrons about their leisure reading, and how to write an effective book annotation. Visit our website for details. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to author Kacie Rose and to our sponsor, DK. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.